Welcome to our new episode.
The Lost Colony of Roanoke, 1587, America's first great mystery. They came seeking a new world and vanished without a trace. Chapter 1. The Dream of a New England. In the late 16th century, England stood at a turning point. The seas were alive with adventure and ambition. Spain had carved out vast empires in the Americas, flooding Europe with gold and silver. France and Portugal followed close behind. And England, late to the race, hungered for its share of the New World. Queen Elizabeth I sat upon the throne, and among her loyal subjects was one man with a daring vision, Sir Walter Raleigh, a poet, explorer, and court favorite. Raleigh dreamed of planting an English colony on the coast of the New World, not only to rival Spain, but to create a foothold for trade, exploration, and Protestant influence. In 1584, Raleigh received a royal patent from the Queen, granting him the right to claim lands in the name of England. He called his new domain Virginia in honor of the Virgin Queen. The first expedition that year, led by explorers Philip Amadas and Arthur Barlow, sailed across the Atlantic and reached a small island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. The island was fertile, green, and surrounded by a maze of shallow sounds and barrier islands. Its name was Roanoke. To the English, it seemed a paradise, a gateway to the New World. To the native Algonquian peoples who lived there, it was home. Chapter 2. The First Colony, Hope and Hostility, 1585. In 1585, Raleigh sent his first group of settlers to Roanoke, about 108 men, led by Sir Richard Grenville and Ralph Lane. At first, things went well. The colonists built a small fort, explored the surrounding region, and made contact with the local tribes, including the Sicotan and Croatan peoples. The English marveled at the abundance of fish, deer, and fruit. They believed they had found the perfect base for an empire. But paradise did not last. Tensions grew as misunderstandings deepened. The English, desperate for food, began seizing corn from nearby villages. The natives in turn retaliated. Ralph Lane, fearing rebellion, struck preemptively and killed Chief Wingina, a local leader who had once welcomed them. By the following spring, the colony was starving and surrounded by enemies. Then, by chance, salvation appeared on the horizon. Sir Francis Drake, returning from raids against the Spanish in the Caribbean, anchored near Roanoke in June 1586. Drake offered supplies and eventually passage home. Lane and his men accepted. The first English colony in America was abandoned. When Grenville returned a few weeks later with new supplies, he found the settlement deserted. To maintain England's claim, he left behind a small garrison of 15 men. They too would vanish, their fate unknown. Chapter 3. A New Beginning, the 1587 colony. Despite these failures, Raleigh refused to give up. In 1587, he planned a new colony, not a military outpost, but a civilian settlement. This time, the goal was to build a permanent English town in the New World. He appointed John White, an artist and mapmaker who had been part of the 1585 expedition, as governor. This new group consisted of 117 settlers, men, women, and children, including White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her husband, Ananias Dare. They set sail from England in May 1587, led by Simon Fernandez as pilot, and reached Roanoke Island in late July. But the moment they arrived, trouble began. The island was eerily silent. The 15 men Grenville had left behind were gone. Only bones remained. The surrounding forests were empty, and the nearby tribes were hostile, remembering the violence of the earlier settlers. White wanted to relocate the colony to Chesapeake Bay, where the land was said to be richer and safer. But Fernandez refused to continue the voyage. He was anxious to return to privateering and profit. Against White's protests, the colonists were forced to remain at Roanoke. It was a decision that would seal their fate. Chapter 4. The Birth of Virginia Dare. Despite hardship, the settlers tried to make the best of their situation. They repaired the old fort, planted crops, and sought to rebuild relations with friendly tribes. Then, on August 18, 1587, a remarkable event occurred. Eleanor Dare, the governor's daughter, gave birth to a baby girl, the first English child born in the New World. She was named Virginia Dare. To the colonists, her birth was a symbol of hope, a promise that England's dream would endure. To history, she would become a haunting symbol of mystery. But soon after, supplies began to run low. The settlers begged Governor White to return to England for help. Reluctantly, he agreed. Leaving behind his daughter, son-in-law, and infant granddaughter, he set sail in late 1587, promising to return as soon as possible. He had no idea it would take 3 long years before he could come back. Chapter 5. Delayed by War. When White returned to England, he found his country in chaos. Spain, enraged by English raids on its ships and colonies, was preparing to launch the Spanish Armada, the greatest naval force the world had ever seen. Queen Elizabeth ordered that all English ships be held for defense. No vessel, no matter what the reason, could sail for the New World. White pleaded for permission to rescue his colony, but his words fell on deaf ears. England's survival came first. For 3 years, John White waited, helpless, tormented, and filled with fear for his family. Only after the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 and the gradual return of peace could he finally organize another voyage. In 1590, he set sail once more for Roanoke, desperate to find his people alive. Chapter 6. The Return. The Island of Silence. On August 18, 1590, exactly 3 years to the day of the birth of Virginia Dare, White's expedition reached Roanoke. The scene that awaited him was haunting beyond words. The settlement was deserted. The fort was dismantled, the houses overgrown with vines. There were no bodies, no signs of struggle, only emptiness. The colonists had vanished. White searched desperately for clues. Then he found one, carved into a tree, C-R-O. Nearby, on a post of the palisade, he discovered another carving, Croatoan. White's heart leapt with hope. Croatan was the name of a nearby island, modern Hatteras Island, home to the friendly Croatan tribe who had once allied with the English. Before he left in 1587, White had instructed the settlers that if they were forced to move, they should carve the name of their destination, and if they were in danger, they should also carve a cross above it. There was no cross. The message seemed clear. The colonists had moved to Croatan Island. White urged his sailors to sail there immediately, but a violent storm swept in, damaging their ships and forcing them to retreat to the open sea. After several failed attempts, they were driven back to England. John White never returned to Roanoke again. He died, never knowing what became of his daughter, son-in-law, or granddaughter.
the first English child born in America. Chapter 7. Theories and Clues. For more than 4 centuries, the fate of the lost colony of Roanoke has remained one of America's greatest mysteries. Over the years, historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters have proposed countless theories. Some are plausible, others border on legend. Let's explore them. 1. The Croatan theory. The simplest and most widely accepted explanation is that the colonists indeed moved to Croatan Island, Hatteras Island, about 50 miles south of Roanoke. Archaeological digs on Hatteras have uncovered English trade goods, tools, weapons, and ceramics dating from the late 1500s. Some historians believe the settlers were absorbed by the Croatan tribe, intermarrying and surviving among them. Later European explorers reported encountering Native Americans with gray eyes and knowledge of English customs, possible descendants of the lost colonists.
2. The Chesapeake Bay theory. Some scholars argue the settlers may have attempted to follow their original plan, relocating to Chesapeake Bay. This area, known as the City of Raleigh in early maps, was believed to offer better farmland and safer harbors. If so, the colonists may have perished in conflict with other tribes, such as the Powhatans, who later told Captain John Smith of Jamestown fame that a group of English settlers had lived among them but were killed. 3. The starvation or disease theory. Life on the Outer Banks was harsh. Food shortages, hurricanes, and disease were constant threats. Without resupply, the settlers might have succumbed to hunger or illness, their remains lost to time and tide. 4. The Spanish attack theory. At the time, Spain still claimed the southeastern coast of North America and had forts in Florida. Some believe Spanish forces discovered and destroyed the English outpost to eliminate competition. However, no Spanish records confirm such an attack. 5. The Dare Stones mystery. In the 1930s, a series of engraved stones surfaced across Georgia and the Carolinas, purporting to tell the story of Eleanor Dare and the survivors of Roanoke. According to the inscriptions, the colonists fled inland and were gradually killed by disease and warfare. Only a few, including Eleanor, survived temporarily before dying far from the coast. While most of these stones are considered modern hoaxes, one, the so-called Chowan River stone, remains debated. Its authenticity is uncertain, but if real, it would be one of the most extraordinary archaeological finds in American history. Chapter 8. The Legacy of the Lost Colony. Though the colonists vanished, their dream did not. 17 years later, in 1607, England founded Jamestown, the first successful English settlement in North America. Many of Jamestown's settlers knew of Roanoke and came determined not to repeat its mistakes. The mystery of the lost colony haunted them, a reminder of how fragile human ambition can be against the wilderness of a new world. Virginia Dare became a legend. In American folklore, she was said to have grown up into a beautiful young woman, transformed by magic into a white doe, a spirit haunting the forests of Carolina. Poets and novelists in later centuries turned her into a symbol of innocence, loss, and the merging of two worlds, English and Native American. Even today, statues of Virginia Dare stand in North Carolina, and her name adorns streets, schools, and counties. She remains the enduring ghost of early America. Chapter 10. Modern Discoveries.
In recent decades, new archaeological findings have brought us closer to solving the mystery of Roanoke. In 2012, researchers from the British Museum re-examined an old map drawn by John White himself. Hidden beneath a patch on the map was a small red and blue symbol, possibly marking a secret fort or settlement about 50 miles inland from Roanoke. Archaeologists later excavated the site near the Albemarle Sound and discovered shards of English pottery dating from the late 1500s. These artifacts suggest that at least some of the colonists may have moved inland and survived for a time. Meanwhile, ongoing DNA studies aim to trace potential descendants of the lost settlers among modern Native American tribes in the region. While definitive proof remains elusive, each new clue adds another layer to one of the oldest unsolved puzzles in American history. Chapter 10: The Enduring Mystery. The mystery of Roanoke endures not simply because it is unsolved, but because it captures the essence of human exploration, courage, hope, and tragedy intertwined. Imagine them, the 117 souls who crossed a wild ocean in wooden ships, driven by faith in a dream of new beginnings. They built homes, planted gardens, raised children, and then, somehow, disappeared from history. No war memorial bears their names. No graves mark their resting place. Only a single word, Croatoan, carved into a weathered post, whispers across the centuries. Epilogue, echoes across time. Today, Roanoke Island is peaceful. Visitors walk through the reconstructed fort, hearing the wind rustle through pines and salt marshes. The air still carries a sense of mystery, as if the island remembers. Archaeologists continue to dig. Historians continue to argue. But perhaps the truth lies somewhere between legend and loss, a story of endurance, adaptation, and the human will to survive. In the end, the lost colony of Roanoke remains what it has always been, America's first great mystery, a haunting reminder that even in the pursuit of a new world, not all stories find their ending.